I'm struck by the fact that today there were 17 witnesses who testified on the zoning rewrite. Of the 17, 15 spoke of varying degrees of distrust of the Office of Planning or dislike of the Office of Planning. 2 testified in support of the zoning rewrite. And I don't mean in terms of the substance necessarily, but we're just supportive. Ms. Huey, what will the Office of Planning do to reverse the this sentiment that we're hearing, which is very critical of the Office of Planning from the public? In fact, before you answer that, let me just read an excerpt from this was testimony that I think you were present for. The prolonged and costly zoning revision process has been long primarily because the Office of Planning was determined to rewrite the entire code when that was not necessary or requested. Its effort has become a flashpoint because the Office of Planning never attempted to meaningfully involve residents. Amassing a list of meetings is not evidence that anyone understands what is being proposed or that they had actual opportunities to affect the proposals. I've participated in enough of these meetings to confidently tell you that public meetings were premised on an understanding of zoning terms, zoning processes, and a sophisticated appreciation for how the code is organized and how different chapters overlap and intersect. There was no effort to unravel zoning so that residents could appreciate what their property rights are now and what their rights would be in the future. There was no effort to explain to renters how their communities might change. The emphasis during outreach was to dismiss the efforts of those who were trying to explain the breadth of the proposals and the areas of change. The Office of Planning's goal was to reassure residents that there was no need to get involved with the zoning rewrite. At the same time, the Zoning Commission was wondering why more people weren't attending hearings and why A&C commissioners were loudly complaining of being left out. Now, whether you agree with that or not, it conveys, and this was one of 15 testimonies today, a rather profound unhappiness with the Office of Planning. So my question is, what will OP do to reverse that?
As I shared, Chairman Mendelson, in my testimony, that OP is now conducting additional open houses. We think that this will be particularly effective. We find in large public meetings, sometimes it can be intimidating to some members of the community. There are several people that are very astute at planning and zoning and understand it very well. We find that other members of the community, people with families, newer residents to the city, perhaps aren't as familiar with the process. And so sometimes large public meetings is not the best way to get input from everyone. So we are hoping that the open houses, because they're all day literally in our office and other locations throughout the city, just provides an opportunity for people to come when they can and to sit down with individual staff members, ask their specific questions regarding different subtitles, and actually work through, I think, some of the challenges or issues that they're not really understanding. So we hope this process of the open houses will really help to have more people involved and get their ideas and to actually explain what the ZRR is all about.
There are 8 open houses?
Yes.
5 of them are going to be at Office of Planning's office?
Yes, we're holding every Friday during the month of March. Our office will be open to receive members of the public. I think the 3 community open houses will be held at the Petworth Library, Deanwood Recreation Community Center, and Thurgood Marshall Academy in Ward 8.
And what time of day are those 3?
I'll let our Deputy Director, Jennifer Steingasser, answer.
Yes, sir, Chairman Mendelson. The one at Thurgood Marshall is on a Saturday, and that's from 10 to 2. The one at Petworth is on a Tuesday evening from 4 to 8. The one at Deanwood is on a Wednesday evening, and that is also 4 to 8. So we tried to straddle them over Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Then the Office of Planning held one yesterday where we had 5 individuals show up, and then we'll be hosting one in our office every Friday from 8:30 to 5. And then, of course, if people can just call us, but we did have a really good, we were surprised by the level of conversation people were willing to have just one-on-one. And I'm not saying they were all agreeing with us. There was a lot of question and answer going back and forth. That was really helpful, but it creates a different kind of casual environment.
That's based on the ones that you've had.
The ones yesterday, yes, sir.
Yesterday was the first one.
Yesterday was the first one, and even with the weather and the cold, we had 5 people show up.
How many?
5 from Wards 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, and Ward 5.
You realize that that's not enough to turn things around. I mean, I'm concerned here because I think that between the way the zoning rewrite has played out and the way the Hyde Act issue played out last fall, there's a profound upset in the city. When I say that, that's as if everybody's paying attention, and not everybody is, but of those who are, there's considerable upset. I mean, I'm shocked that the Washington Post had in its poll a question about the Hyde Act, and more shocked that there were over 60% of citizens who knew what they were talking about and registered a view, which was contrary to OP's position. I think Office of Planning has built itself a bit of a hole, and I don't see how these 8 open houses, 5 of which are located at your office on a working day afternoon, are going to, for which 5 people have showed up at one. I don't see how that's going to turn it around.
Oh, well,
And you notice I'm not even talking about the substance.
I don't think we intend that the 8 open houses are going to turn around and everybody is going to feel good about things. I mean, there's clearly been a lot of controversy over the zoning regulation reviews, and we have, over the course of the years, done almost everything that's been suggested that we do and that you've heard about today. We originally started out doing it topic by topic with a concept hearing in front of the Zoning Commission, so that there was no text. People could talk about, do we think accessory apartments are the right way to go, and should they be matter of right, or should they be by special exception? How do we want to approach that? The Zoning Commission advertised those through the Office of Zoning. They used their official legal notice process as well as the OP website to try to get that. We got through, I think, 10 of the 12, over 20 public hearings that the Zoning Commission held in a conversational discussion format that Mr. Otten was referring to earlier, where they discussed the topics, and then they gave OP guidance about which direction they wanted us to proceed with. They didn't say, go forth, absolutely, we're going to support whatever you bring back, but they did have an opportunity to talk and hear from the public and then provide guidance to OP about the areas they thought were in keeping with the comprehensive plan that they wanted us to proceed. We then took that back. We proceeded through most of that. We got to, I think, the last topic, and the Zoning Commission came to the task force and had a public meeting. At that point, it was the position from the task force was being communicated that they couldn't deal with the piecemeal of it, that having the pieces was, they needed to see the whole, that there were too many pieces now, they needed to see the whole. So we stepped back, and that was in 2012, and we wrote the entire regulation so people could see the whole. And then that got brought forward. And then we again, as Director Huey pointed out, we sent out mailers to every SMD on 3 separate occasions. We did indeed send letters to every place of worship in the city that had any kind of listed address. We requested that they either post it on a community bulletin board or circulate it however they felt that they could. We put copies in the libraries. We made copies available. So we did proceed down all of these types of paths, both formal and informal. We then coordinated also with the Office of Zoning in terms of how they were doing their advertisements, and they put together a casual, unofficial mailer that was brightly colored and attention-getting, and they mailed that out to every SMD with multiple copies so the SMD could then circulate as they felt necessary to their citizenry. And then we accepted every invitation that we could, and there are very few that we declined, and those were only when there was a conflict. And in most cases, we would actually reschedule staffing at other public hearings so that we could make sure that we were attending every community meeting that we were capable of attending, and that included both Saturdays, every day but Sunday. We've met on this topic. But that's not to say that there's not been controversy. I think the only thing I take exception with is that people are implying that OP purposely went out to create controversy, and we really didn't. We went out to try to implement the comprehensive plan. There have been several ANCs that have actually voted in support. 2B, 3B, and 6B, because those are easy to remember, have all registered support for the process. So there is also a population that supports it, but we realize the fighting has to stop. There has to be, I think, as you're getting at, a rebridging. There has to be a coming back, because when it's done, the regulations will apply to all of us. And so we've also made a commitment that is, if as we look through the regulations over the year, if we find they don't work, we'll be going back and readjusting. And we'll see what kind of feedback the Zoning Commission gives us. You know, they've not had an opportunity yet to close that record and give us feedback on how they want us to proceed.
Well, I let you go on with all the details, but I don't think that really answers the fundamental question, and I'm not sure that there is a fundamental, I'm not sure that there is an answer other than Ms. Huey saying that she will go back and think about this. I think OP has created an enormous amount of community distrust. I'm not even going to venture what percentage. It's just an enormous amount of public distrust. And that's going to make the zoning rewrite difficult. It's going to make everything that OP does difficult. And I think that it's arguable that task number one or job one is to rebuild the confidence in the Office of Planning. And a disagreement over an issue should not engender the kind of criticism that this committee has heard over and over and again today, where we did not, we didn't make any extra effort to recruit people to come and testify, and 15 people came and bashed the Office of Planning, and 2 people came in and said they supported the zoning rewrite. That's a pretty bad proportion. I was told that last night the Office of Planning was calling people to come and testify today. I heard this from somebody who's involved with the industrial task force. Can you explain why there would have been such calls?
I'm sorry, Chairman, could you repeat that question again? I'm sorry.
I heard that yesterday afternoon the Office of Planning was calling people asking them to come testify today. I heard that from somebody who's involved with the industrial task force. Why would that have happened?
Chairman, I think over the years, the Office of Planning, our work is with the residents and businesses and other stakeholders throughout the city. And over the years, we've worked with numerous folks and numerous ANCs and neighborhood associations and business organizations. So I think that if there's any opportunity for the public to share about their experiences, about working with our agency, I think that it would be appropriate for them to share it with the council. I'm not aware of specific phone calls being made yesterday from members of my staff.
I had a couple of questions on your comprehensive plan presentation. When are you going to update this? This was an April 2013 report. When are you going to update that report?
The progress report is required. We're required to submit it to council every 2 years per the implementation element of the comprehensive plan. So then we've just finished this particular progress report, so we would probably be updating again in the next year and a half.
Meaning, in other words, April 2015.
Correct.